big defense authorization bill. I'm chairman of the Armed Services Committee, so this bill's coming to the floor. It's the whole defense budget, it's pay for our troops, it's benefit for our troops, it's health care, it's weapon systems, I mean, it's the whole shebang. But inside that bill, called the Defense Authorization Bill, are these detainee provisions, which the House of Representatives put in some detainee provisions, and I'll tell you what is meant by detainee provisions in their bill, and we did the same in our bill, which are very different from the House of Representatives provisions. The issue on detainees is really the following. The most difficult, the most emotional issue is what do you do with an American who joins Al-Qaeda? And we have it. The next most difficult one is, well, what do you do with Al-Qaeda people who you capture? We got 3,000, for instance, Taliban. It's not all Al-Qaeda. We got 3,000 Taliban right now in prison in Afghanistan. I mean, we're in a war. Al-Qaeda's declared war on us, okay? They attacked us on 9/11. They brought the war to our country. What do you do with prisoners of war? What do you do in World War II if you captured prisoners? Lock them up. We're not talking about the Japanese Americans that we put in internment camps. They didn't attack us. Okay, that's not the issue. The issue is, what about people who attack us in war? What do you do with them? The rule of war is that if these are enemy combatants that are attacking you, you put them in prison camps. You don't give them trials. You don't give people you capture in war trials. They go to a prison camp until hostilities are over. But when are these hostilities going to be over? That's the dilemma. When is a war on terror over? We know we're at war with Al-Qaeda. They declared war on us. They hit us on 9/11. I watched this guy called Khalid Sheikh Mohammed down in Guantanamo. I went down to see him in he was having one of his hearings. He's very proud. He said, with this hand, I cut off the head of the newspaper guy named
Daniel Pearl,
who was killed. He's very proud of him. He's a warrior. He's decapitated. What do you do with this guy? Okay. Now, with him, that's pretty easy. You keep him in a prison camp. You try him for a crime if you want to in a military tribunal with rules. There's rules of war. It's kind of hard to talk about rules of war, but war has rules. If you wear a uniform and you attack another soldier, you're not a criminal. You're a captured warrior. You got to be treated according to laws of war. But there are rules of war. What do you do with enemy combatants? If they attack innocent people, civilians, you're not protected by the rules of war. You can try them for war crimes. Anyway, so here's the dilemma: how do we handle the Christmas bomber? The guy's in a bomb. He's in an airplane, a commercial airplane, coming to Detroit. He's got explosive material in his underwear. He tries to bring down the airplane. He lights fire to his underwear, and it didn't work. But that's the Christmas bomber. We tried him in a civilian court. Okay? But what do you do with the guys that, first of all, is the question, American citizens who join Al-Qaeda? How do you handle them? Are they criminals? You treat them as criminals, or you treat them as guys who attack you, and you put them in a prison camp? How long do you keep them in a prison camp? So we did about 7 or 8 provisions that we have in our bill. First of all, we say that in the provision kind of number 1, essentially that people who attack us are subject, can be kept, detained is the word, as enemy combatants. But what about the American who joins Al-Qaeda and attacks us? What about that person? Does that person can he be kept as an enemy combatant? Our answer is the same as the Supreme Court's answer: yes. If he joins an army that attacks us, he can be kept as a enemy combatant.
Is it specifically stated that way, though, because?
It is.
Okay, because there's a concern around, of course, that this could be used against, for instance, the occupiers.
Against who?
The
No,
occupiers.
I mean, no, the answer is no. It's hostile, if someone is captured in hostilities against the United States. We repeat the law, okay? That's just the starting point, by the way, that's just the first point.
Yeah, but some of the
It's got
governors are
nothing- it's got
saying that
nothing to
they
do with
are
arrest.
hostile against the government.
It's got nothing to do with
That's what they're
arrest.
saying about the occupiers.
I know, it's got nothing to do with arresting people. It's whether or not someone, only thing we deal with is once someone has been detained, what do you do with them? Can you keep someone who's been detained as an enemy combatant if they join a hostile, if they engage, the word is, if they engage in armed hostilities against you? Can you then detain them?
Okay.
Some people say that an American citizen cannot be an enemy combatant. That was the position some people took. Most Democrats took that position. They are wrong as far as I'm concerned. The Supreme Court has said they're wrong, goes back as far as the case called Huron, which is a 150-year-old case, where an American citizen captured in Long Island I think this was in 1812, if I remember, was ruled by the Supreme Court to be subject to the law of war. He's an enemy combatant. As a matter of fact, he was hanged. But can an American citizen be an enemy combatant? That's the real gut issue. And our answer is whatever the Supreme Court says, and they have said yes, that's what we say. We don't try to change the law, okay? In this regard, we don't try to change the law. Yeah.
There's one little piece on here, and basically what it says, and I have to read this because I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but one section authorizes the military to indefinitely detain without charge citizens apprehended on U.S. soil who were suspected of involvement.
No, not suspected. The word is determined, by the way.
Well,
It's not-
I'm reading it
No,
off
I
here.
understand. That's wrong.
Okay, and I think one of the concerns, though, is that it gives such a broad
Yeah.
power to eliminate the rights that so many people have died and given their lives for.
It is no-
That's really what we're
I
concerned with.
understand, and I have the same concern. Look, I'm a civil libertarian. I got the same concern. The hard question is, the question isn't whether U.S. citizens can be an enemy combatant. The Supreme Court has answered that question. They've answered, point blank, they answered in 2004. The exact wording is, a U.S. citizen may be, we reiterate, because it's not the first time, a U.S. citizen can be found to be an enemy combatant.
So where does the oversight come from then?
That's the question, but not just for American citizens, by the way. That's the question. The hard part isn't what you do at the beginning. At the beginning, police usually will be the one to arrest the bomber. There's a big issue, well, wait a minute, do you have to turn him right over to the military? No, you don't have to turn him over to the military. The question is really, how do you have reviews of these people so it's not forever? That's the hard question. Right now, there is no limit.
Right.
That's the current law. An enemy combatant is when the hostilities are over. When are these hostilities over?
We know that's
the problem.
gonna be never. We know
That's
that.
the status quo, that's not our bill. Our bill doesn't create that problem. The problem is, that's the status quo without our bill. When does someone in Guantanamo get released? Forget whether he's an American or not an American. By the way, there are no Americans in Guantanamo. When does somebody in Guantanamo get released? We got regular reviews down there. If they're no longer a threat, we leave them, we let them go. We determine they're no longer a threat.
I think what bothers a lot of people, including me, is what safeguards are there to keep these mistakes from happening? Because of course they do. How many years did we have the Canadian kid in custody without being charged until he was released?
And
5, 6, 7 years?
I don't
Them are years we stole from that man's life.
By the way, we stole that from his life, because he was sent to a third country where he was tortured.
By who?
That's- By us.
In our-
That's not our bill.
That's why we're concerned.
That's the bloody CIA under George Bush. That's not the bill. This bill doesn't create that problem. That's the status quo.
That's true.
Okay, so now let me get to the bill.